As plinth work in the subway in downtown Pittsburgh continues, you may be wondering, what even is a plinth? We caught up with Pittsburgh Regional Transit Senior Project Coordinator Jim Labella to find out.
So we basically have three types of track in our system. We have ballasted track, which most people are familiar with, which is wood ties and ballast and steel plates that the rail sits on.
The second type is embedded track. You'll find embedded track where light rail cars cross or share a roadway with rubber tire vehicles.
We only use embedded track where we absolutely need to, because that's very stiff, and if you have any repairs, you have to bust all the concrete out. Broadway Avenue, Mount Washington Tunnel, grade crossings throughout our system, but we have to there because it's mixed use.
The third type uses plinths, or concrete pedestals that support the rail. You can find these mainly in our tunnels and our bridges.
We call this direct fixation track, where we mount plates on top of concrete and put the rail on top of the plate. This plinth has more structural integrity than the slab of the subway floor does. This is the clip that holds the rail to the plate, and this bolt holds the plate to the plinth. And you'll see there's a small shim underneath it that they use to get the right elevation of the rail. The difference between this and ballasted track with ballast and wood ties is this track doesn't move at all. It's set in place.
And that's an important job. They hold the rail in place in relation to the other rail at the correct gauge and height. They also ensure the doors line up with the platforms.
Most of the plinths that we're repairing in this project were original construction in the early 1980s. You know, they've been under tremendous strain for that whole 40 years. This is an older plinth. It's not in very bad shape. You can see that these plates that the rail was sitting on, at one time these were encapsulated in rubber, and you can see that they've deteriorated. We're replacing these as part of the project, regardless of if we're repairing the plinth or not. We're going to replace these plates. What's happening right now is they're demolishing, preparing it for new concrete. They bring out their 30-pound chipping hammers. It's already marked out what areas need to be repaired, and they start to bust out the deteriorated sections. Most of it was what we call full depth, where they're replacing the plinth all the way down to the slab of the subway. So the exposed rebar is treated, cleaned, and new rebar is added as needed. If there's severely deteriorated existing rebar, we replace it. We tie into existing concrete by doweling in with rebar. And then the next step is forming for new concrete pour. And then later tonight, they'll come in and pour the concrete to rebuild those sections and repair any small areas, small repairs.
During weekend closures, there are limitations of how much work can be completed, with considerations like the time it takes concrete to cure and the thermal expansion of the rail. Longer closures mean increased productivity and ensure the job will be done sooner.
We could move the demolition crew to a place far enough away from the existing area that they just worked on, and they could start demolishing, and it can be a phased construction. By repairing them, we can gain significant life out of the existing subway. We're expecting to gain anywhere 20 to 30 more years of life out of this rehabilitation, out of the plinths in the work area.